while the Obama race speech might not be making big headlines in favor of Romney, they do have a new gaffe that they're trying to jump onto, and this one concerns Joe Biden. So we have video number 9, the Romney ad that's focusing on a controversial statement by Joseph Biden.
In the richest country in the history of the world, this Obama economy has crushed the middle class.
The recovery that President Obama promised is nowhere in sight.
And more Americans have slipped from the middle class into a world of poverty they never imagined they'd see.
We have 23 million Americans struggling to find work in America today.
The middle class in America is hurting.
The middle class has been buried the last 4 years.
Oh, Biden.
I don't know that Biden knew he was going to end up in that ad. Let's give you the full context of his comments, not in a Romney campaign ad, so you can judge for yourself. Let's go to video number 8.
How they can justify raising taxes in the middle class has been buried the last 4 years. How in Lord's name can they justify raising their taxes with these tax cuts?
Wait,
Okay.
that context wasn't in the Romney ad.
Of course not.
But people will draw the entirely wrong idea out of this. I don't understand. How could they do that?
Yeah, I'm going to get a little hate for this, but Biden keeps making comments that keep getting himself and the Democrats in trouble. And don't get me wrong when I say this, right? We were talking about this during the break, but I compare Biden a little bit to Pat Robertson, not in their ideology at all, but in that sometimes he says things without really thinking about the ramifications, and you're just like, oh, that's going to be used against you, right?
But you know what? That's why I love Joe Biden. I really
You
like
want to
him.
give him a hug, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
it's going to be all right, man. It's going to be all right.
He said that ridiculous thing about Indians and Pakistanis owning every 7-Eleven. He talked about
I don't remember that.
He talked about Obama being so fresh and clean. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example,
And
right?
articulate. A black man that smells good and can speak well. I mean, like, he's hilarious, okay? But look, the problem is this. The problem is that the Republicans pretend that they're like a party that's been around for 3.5 years. They were around when this shit happened. They're the ones who caused it. So for them to pretend, oh my God, the things the last 4 years were horrible under Obama, we need to go into a new direction, which is the direction that set this whole course in action, is so ridiculous. I think they can't run away from it. And they try to hide Bush, they try to hide Condoleezza Rice, Rumsfeld, Cheney. They try to hide them all away, pretend they're a brand new party with brand new ideas. But the fact is, the same old party, one idea, tax cuts, that's all they got.
They've got deregulation too.
You're right, tax cuts and deregulations, that's it. And of course, they cry about the deficit. At the same time, they won't ever touch defense. I think American people are onto the game. I mean, it's too late for them to pretend that they are this fresh party with fresh ideas.
Even Governor Sununu, who is a huge supporter of Romney, says that this gaffe is probably not going to do much in terms of hurting the Democrats. It's not going to do anything, but he does think that it will set the tone for the debates tonight, which I totally agree with. The debates tonight are going to be about the economy. And that's it, and about their differing opinions on what they should do in terms of the economy, in terms of taxation. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, the Republicans are, they're desperate. They're looking for anything, and it's slim pickings for them at this point.
Look, I mean, we all know the economy is not good. We all know that. I don't think anyone thinks that it's Obama's fault that we're in the situation that we're in. Now there's I think a fair debate on whether Obama did a good enough job to get us out of the hole that we were put into by the Republicans in 2008. However, it's hard to argue to go back to the party who put us here if they don't have any new ideas.
Exactly.
Well, they have to assume that people will forget or that they won't attribute blame correctly. I think that Cenk has talked about studies that have shown that they do actually attribute blame to Bush and the Republicans. And so I don't think that it's really going to work. I'm going to defend Biden in his comments, but first we have an Obama spokesman who is doing the same. This is Stephanie Cutter, video 10.
If you look at what the vice president said and what he's been saying on the campaign trail is that the middle class has been buried by the exact same policies that Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan want to go back to. You shouldn't be cutting taxes for those at the top and asking the middle class to pay for it. You shouldn't be undoing reforms on Wall Street that will prevent another taxpayer bailout. Those are the exact policies that crashed our economy in the first place, and that's what Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan are promising to take us back to.
Get it? Yeah. That was a
She's
good
100%
response.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, okay, so when Bush took office, he inherited a tremendous surplus. And Republicans said, let's have a tax cut. Let's give back this money to American people. All right, fine. So we did a tax cut. Then things got really bad. They said, let's do another tax cut to stimulate the economy. Things that are even worse. Let's do some more tax cuts. That's it. I mean, they're a one-trick pony. Hey, let's start a war in the Middle East. That's gonna cost us a lot of money. Let's do tax cuts. I mean, they don't care what the situation is. They have a one-solution-fits-all tax cuts. That's their economic policy. Tax cuts and deregulation coupled together.
I was listening to the Smirconish program last night, and, but there was, okay, listen, just very quickly, there was an interesting discussion about, you know, our complicated tax code and, you know, some of the ideas that economists have out there. And there's this one economist with the last name Laffer, I forget his first name, but he has something known as the Laffer curve. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Okay, so on one end you have 0% taxation, right, which means that the government will collect absolutely no revenue. On the other side of the curve, you have 100% taxation, which he says will lead to 0% revenue because no one has an incentive to work, which I think is fairly accurate. If I knew that they're going to take 100% of my money, then no, I'm not going to work. What the hell? If the government is theoretically going to somehow find a way to take care of me based on those who do work, no one's going to want to work, right? But anyway, somewhere on that curve is the right balance, right? And what I love about Laffer is he is a huge supporter of Clinton. And I think Clinton got it right with our taxes, right? He did increase taxes on the top income earners, and job creation skyrocketed. And why is it that we have moved so far away from something that worked? Why is it that when Bush got elected, the country was experiencing a surplus, but then Bush changed everything around, cut taxes for the wealthy, and it made us end up in the place that we're in now? And then for the large part, Obama has kind of continued those tax policies. So what is Obama going to do to change things after he gets reelected? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic about that. I think he'll do nothing about it. The problem is right now, every economic indicator parallels the situation that existed in the 20s, right before the big crash. So that's what happens. I mean, you know, the rich who have so much, they still want more, and they feel entitled to have more. I mean, we talked about it yesterday with John Thane, and after he drove Merrill Lynch into the ground, he thought he deserved a $30 to $40 million bonus, but out of the goodness of his heart, he would accept a $10 million bonus. After spending $1.2 million renovating his office as Merrill Lynch was falling through the floor.
So just really fast, that's not actually just polishing like the banisters on the Titanic as it's sinking. That's ordering new banisters for the Titanic as it's sinking.
Yes, I mean that's the situation that we have, and you know somehow over the last 30 years, the right has convinced Americans that if you're rich, then you deserved it. And if you're poor, then you deserved it. And that if you're rich, that means you're good and handsome and strong and smart and on the side of God. And if you're poor, then you're stupid and lazy, and you deserve what you get. And it's just getting worse. And you know, sadly, I feel that President Obama has not been bold enough in his leadership to take us away from that mindset. I mean, sometimes, you know, we get frustrated. Well, I get frustrated with Cenk when he says things like, "There's nothing wrong with being rich and wanting to make as much money as possible." I think there is. I think there is something wrong with that. I think that is not the American dream. The American dream was to be able to, you know, get up in the morning, go to a job, make enough money to support your family. That was the American dream. Not to have so much and hoard as much as you can, and then live this life of absolute luxury above and beyond what anyone can ever spend. That's not the American dream. That was hijacked in the 80s somehow, somewhere along the way, during the Reagan years, during the glorification of Wall Street and greed, and the whole greed is good concept. And you know, we got to bring it back. Otherwise, we're going to continue this path of the very few having everything and everyone else having nothing, and then we'll see a big giant crash.
I'm in favor of people becoming as wealthy as they possibly can, as long as they pay back to society through their taxes, through a fair tax rate, so then other people can have the same opportunity as they did. What I don't like are the people who took advantage of public education, who took advantage of social programs, and they use that as a way to become as successful as they are today, but then they turn around and say, no, I don't want to pay taxes, and I don't want to help other people get to the point where they want to today. You know, another example of that is the estate tax, and that was something that I was actually against. I remember like a few years ago we had this whole debate about it, and Cenk made an argument that really changed my mind about estate tax, right? My father worked extremely hard, and he was able to own properties and things like that, so now he has a very comfortable retirement. He's not wealthy by any means, but he will have a sizable chunk to leave behind for me and my brother. I like the idea of part of that getting taxed, so it will help other young people also make ends meet, also make themselves successful and do what they need to do. It's basically my dad giving back to society so they will have the same opportunities as he did. And I think that that's great. The problem is, what do we spend our money on today? And a lot of times we spend our revenue on stupid shit like the wars. That's the part that pisses me off. I wish we had more control over what our money gets spent on.
Yeah, look, I'm not suggesting that it's wrong to be rich and work hard and make a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm suggesting is that it's wrong to make that the American dream, where it's glory and celebrity and fame and money above all else. I mean, I don't think that's the American dream. I don't think that should be the American dream. I think we need to change that dialogue.
Yeah, I think the point that you brought up that I really liked was the rise of Wall Street wealth in the 80s, where before the rich people were at least producing a physical object. And I don't have the numbers with me, unfortunately, but I was recently reading about, if you look at the very wealthy, where did they come from, where did they make their money, the percentage that are getting there through the financial sector is much higher than it was even just 20 years ago. And the problem is that whereas in the past, even the mega wealthy had some sort of physical connection to America, at best the wealthy today have a digital connection.
Right.
And I think that does lead to them feeling disconnected and not in any way responsible for the people who are still not doing so well. And they're focusing entirely on wealth and not on the commonwealth, which is what America was built on.